Okay, what do we got? Anything that you'd like to discuss?
Coach, is there any updates on Chris Hilton and C.J. Daniels?
CJ will be probable. Practiced again today, looked good. Chris will be out.
Brian, Whit Weeks obviously had such an impact. What do you like about his game? What's enabling him to play at the level that he is and impact the game the way he is?
He's a first of all a very good athlete. His athleticism allows him to play fast, instinctive. Do things in pass coverage, cover tight ends down the field, and he plays with an energy and in kind of that throwback, if you will, at the linebacker position that generates a lot of excitement amongst the group. So, it's kind of what we were talking about with other players. Do they elevate the other players around them? And I think when Witt's in the game, he elevates the other players around him. And I think that's what he brings more than anything else.
It was 6 replays, I believe, in the game the other night.
Yeah.
Really long game. I mean, y'all threw a lot of passes. They threw a lot of passes. But would you like to see it streamlined at all? Maybe go to coaches' challenges? Or are you happy with it? Like, let's get it right no matter what it takes.
I've gone on record. I'll go on record, and I've gone on record in our meetings as well. I believe that you should replay scoring plays and change of possession. And I think the coaches should have a challenge. They keep the challenge. If it's successful, they lose the challenge if it's not. I think that streamlines the game. I think it then goes to critical decisions in the game. Other than that, I think we're wasting time with all the replays, yes.
Brian, back to Witt. I guess maybe in the preseason, was it hard for you guys to keep him off the field, or was there still, I guess, a little bit more development that he needed in order to get to obviously where he is now?
Yeah, I mean, the linebacker position is such that, when it comes to fitting a gap, like linebackers have a gap that they have to be in, and, he plays fast, he plays physical, and he plays to the edge of being free. And sometimes that free means, I know I got that gap, but I think I can go make that play. And I think it was just reeling that in a little bit. And I think he's done a really nice job. So where we were in camp to where we are now was probably reeling in a little bit of that freedom and getting it much more in tune with where he needed to be within this system of defense. When you're moving that front a little bit, and we'd like to move the front much more than we have over the last few years, you really have to be conscious of the gap that you have, and I think he's done a really nice job of growing, if you will, with the defense that Blake has installed.
Coach, how's Tradez taking to wide receiver so far this week?
I think he'll do well. I mean, I think, first of all, his you can't teach him in 2 weeks like all the receiver routes and positions. So we're gonna keep it to a minimum in terms of what we're doing, but make it impactful, right? I think it's important that he gets on the field. I think it's important that he's part of the game plan, and that when you walk away, you go, who's that guy? But we can't get him out there and have it that he's making mental errors and not getting lined up and putting us in a position where we're slowing down the offense. So we think we found that spot, and I think he's handled it really well. So and look, this is a young man that hasn't played a ton of football. I think we've got to keep that in mind, and he's picked it up really well. So I'm excited to watch him play.
got two if I can. What are your recollections of Landon Jackson when he was here? And you didn't have him?
I never met him.
Okay.
He wasn't here. But I can tell you what I see on film. He's got a motor, man. He just keeps going and going and going. And I remember from last year when we played him, and it's the same thing. I mean, he is, I don't want to say he's self-made, but, you know, he has really worked for everything. And you respect a player like that.
And then you talked about it being a growth game for Garrett. What did you see this week out of him?
I think more of the same. You know, we're really working on, you know, some of the things that, you know, in similar ways that we worked on with Jaden last year at this time. So I think he's taken to it and has made some really good progress. I think that there's more things that he's going to accomplish in the passing game in terms of putting himself in a better position to succeed, even more so at this point. So, and he's so coachable and takes to it right away and works on it on the practice field. So, you know, it's fun for a coach to go out there and have a guy like that to work with.
Coach Tyree Adams was listed as out on yesterday's report, and it looked like he had some sort of surgery just based on social media. How's
He
how's
had
going?
you know, I don't want to get into the specifics because I don't know the exact medical terms, but he had what would be considered like a sports hernia. And there are, and again, our doctors and trainers could give you more if you're looking for it, but he had to have surgery for that. So he clearly is out. And it was something that happened in pregame. And crazy. I've never seen it happen in over 30 years. Guy who, you know, took all the reps with the second group and physically in good shape, lifting weights, and had this happen in, you know, pregame warm-ups. It's too bad. So he had to have surgery and he'll be out.
You talked a moment ago about I'm assuming the pre-snap defensive line shift. Is that what you're referencing by moving the front?
I'm sorry,
You were talking about moving the front. Or is that just that simple pre-snap shift that the defensive line makes?
Who?
Your defensive line. You said you'd like
Yes.
to move the front a little bit more.
Yeah, it's that plus the actual movement at the snap of the ball. So you might be in a outside shade, and then you're moving to you know, a new gap. The linebackers have to be able to adjust to those movements. And because you're moving, you know, clearly a full man over, you become vulnerable if those linebackers are not in tune with that. And that's in particular what we needed our linebackers to be much more, you know, disciplined with. All right, double it up.
I looked like I was asking a question, but I had a mosquito in my ear.
There's been an onslaught of mosquitoes. I think they're going for the cooler air inside, I think.
Indeed. I think you said Monday, Braden Swinson he sometimes doesn't get the call, but he made like a great play on the goal line, right? How much is confidence? Confidence seems to be a big part of defense, right?
Yeah.
Just going out there and effort and confidence. How much is that improved? Obviously, it's improved from last year, but from the start of the season to now.
Well, I just think he's thinking the right way. I think it. Oh, sure. Yeah, I think all of that is they are thinking the right way about how to play defense and not overanalyzing. And there's not, you know, I was talking to Sage, you know, and, you know, getting him to play fast is in many ways, you know, keeping it easy for him too, and not having a lot of checks and not a lot of communication. So, you know, the essence of great defense is that balance, right? Where you have to structurally be in a position where you can defend some, you know, pretty intricate schemes, right? But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to let those kids play fast. And I think we've struck a pretty good note there where those kids now feel like they can line up and go without fear of, well, I'm in the wrong place. And I think you're seeing that with a lot of those players, and in particular, a guy like Sorensen. Good, thanks, guys.